What if I told you that a sitting U.S. president could simultaneously be a convicted felon and grant pardons to over 1,500 people involved in attacking the very Capitol building where he was inaugurated? Sounds like fiction, right? Well, welcome to 2025, where Donald Trump has shattered every precedent in American political history. In the span of just 1 month, we've witnessed the most extraordinary and controversial series of events in modern American politics. A former president now returned to power, carrying the unprecedented burden of 34 felony convictions while wielding the ultimate power of presidential clemency. Today, we're diving deep into the story that has the entire world watching. How Trump's criminal conviction collided with his sweeping January 6th pardons, creating a constitutional crisis that's redefining the very nature of American democracy. Stick around, because what you're about to learn will shock you, no matter which side of the political aisle you're on. Let me set the stage for you. Donald Trump's legal troubles didn't start when he left office in January 2021. They were brewing long before. But it was the events of January 6, 2021 that truly set everything in motion. Picture this. Hundreds of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, breaking windows, threatening lawmakers, and disrupting the certification of the 2020 election results. In the chaos, people died, democracy was tested, and America watched in horror. But Trump's legal challenges extended far beyond January 6th. We're talking about multiple criminal cases across different jurisdictions. The Manhattan District Attorney's case. This is where Trump made history. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, pursued charges related to hush money payments made during the 2016 election. The key figures here were Stormy Daniels, the adult film actress at the center of the alleged payments, and Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer who became a star witness. Then there was the federal election interference case. Special Counsel Smith led this charge, focusing on Trump's alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results. This case involved some of the biggest names in Trump's inner circle. The classified documents case, also under Smith's purview, centered on Trump's handling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And the Georgia election interference case. Fani Willis, the Fulton County DA, pursued charges related to Trump's phone call asking Georgia officials to find 11,780 votes. Each case involved a cast of characters that reads like a political thriller. From Rudy Giuliani to Mark Meadows, from state election officials to federal prosecutors. These weren't just legal proceedings, they were a test of American institutions themselves. And then it happened. May 30th, 2024, a date that will be etched in history books forever. Donald Trump became the first former U.S. president to be convicted of felony crimes. Let that sink in for a moment. In 248 years of American history, through civil wars, world wars, and countless political scandals, no former president had ever been convicted of a crime. Until now, the Manhattan jury found Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. These charges stemmed from the $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels just days before the 2016 election, a payment prosecutors argued was made to influence the election outcome. The courtroom was electric with tension. As each guilty verdict was read, Trump sat stone-faced while his legal team looked on in what can only be described as stunned silence. Outside, supporters and protesters clashed, creating scenes reminiscent of January 6th itself. But here's where it gets truly unprecedented. Trump didn't just fade into legal obscurity, he doubled down, claimed the entire system was rigged, and, incredibly, won back the presidency while being a convicted felon. Think about that for a second. American voters, knowing full well that Trump was a convicted felon, elected him to the highest office in the land. It's a testament to either his political resilience or a complete breakdown in traditional political norms, depending on your perspective. The legal charges themselves were complex, involving campaign finance violations, business fraud, and conspiracy charges. But the political implications were seismic. For the first time in history, America would have a president with a criminal record. But if you thought Trump's conviction was controversial, what happened next absolutely shattered the political landscape. On his very first day back in office, January 20th, 2025, Trump signed what many are calling the most sweeping and controversial use of presidential pardon power in American history. With the stroke of a pen, he pardoned over 1,500 individuals connected to the January 6th Capitol attack. We're not just talking about people who took selfies outside the building. These pardons included individuals convicted of assaulting police officers, seditious conspiracy, destruction of federal property, and threatening the lives of elected officials. Among those pardoned were members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, groups that had been labeled as domestic terrorist organizations by federal authorities. Stewart Rhodes, the Oath Keepers founder, sentenced to 18 years for seditious conspiracy, walked free. Enrique Tarrio, former Proud Boys leader, also saw his sentence wiped clean. But perhaps most shocking of all, Trump pardoned individuals who had pleaded guilty to planning violence against specific lawmakers. We're talking about people who had detailed plans to harm members of Congress. The pardons weren't just broad, they were immediate. People who had been serving federal sentences were released within hours. Families who thought their loved ones would spend years behind bars suddenly saw them walking free. Trump framed these pardons as correcting injustices and claimed these individuals were political prisoners in their own country. At the signing ceremony, he was flanked by several of the pardoned individuals, creating images that sent shockwaves around the world. The scope was breathtaking. In comparison, President Biden had issued 39 pardons during his entire term. Trump issued 1,500 plus in a single day, fundamentally altering the lives of thousands of families and the trajectory of American justice. The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. America didn't just divide, it fractured along lines we'd never seen before. The GOP establishment found itself in an impossible position. Many Republicans had privately hoped the January 6 convictions would allow the party to move past that dark chapter. Instead, they watched as Trump not only embraced it, but celebrated it. Senator Mitch McConnell, who had previously criticized Trump for January 6th, remained notably silent. Others, like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, who had criticized Trump during the primary, suddenly found themselves defending or deflecting questions about the pardons. But Trump's base? They were ecstatic. Social media exploded with celebrations, with #PromiseKept trending nationwide. To them, this wasn't about pardoning criminals, it was about a president keeping his word to forgotten Americans. Democrats were apoplectic. Nancy Pelosi, in what many called her most emotional public statement ever, declared it the darkest day in American democracy since the Civil War. Chuck Schumer called for immediate congressional hearings. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went viral with a video statement where she broke down in tears saying, "Today, violence was rewarded. Today, democracy died a little more." But perhaps most shocking were the international reactions. Our closest allies struggled to respond diplomatically. The British Parliament held an emergency session discussing whether to maintain their special relationship with America. French President Macron, in a barely veiled criticism, spoke about defending democratic institutions against authoritarianism. Even more shocking, several European leaders began questioning NATO commitments, wondering aloud whether they could trust an America led by someone they viewed as undermining the rule of law. Social media became a battlefield. Videos of pardoned January 6th participants celebrating outside federal prisons went viral, with millions of views within hours. Counter videos showing Capitol Police officers' reactions to the news were equally explosive. One video showing former Capitol Police officer Harry Dunn breaking down while watching the pardon ceremony garnered over 50 million views and became a symbol of the deep wounds still festering in American society. So what does all this mean? The implications are staggering and will shape American politics for generations.
Trump's conviction, while historic, may ultimately prove meaningless. As president, he effectively controls the Justice Department that convicted him. While he cannot pardon himself for state crimes, his federal legal troubles are essentially over. This creates a dangerous precedent, a president who has demonstrated that criminal convictions are merely obstacles to be overcome politically, not legal barriers to power. The January 6th pardons go even further. They signal that political violence, when aligned with the right cause, can be not just forgiven, but rewarded. This isn't just about those 1,500 individuals, it's about the message sent to future actors who might consider using violence for political ends. Legal scholars are calling this moment a constitutional crisis. The Founding Fathers never envisioned a scenario where a convicted felon could become president and then pardon individuals who attacked the very system that convicted him. Some states are already exploring ways to challenge these pardons in court, though the presidential pardon power is considered nearly absolute under the Constitution. The Republican Party faces an existential question. Is it the party of law and order or the party of Trump? These two identities are now fundamentally incompatible. For Democrats, the challenge is different. How do you oppose a president who has already shown that traditional political and legal constraints don't apply to him? The usual tools of opposition, public pressure, legal challenges, political norms, have all been rendered ineffective. Perhaps most concerning is what this means for American democracy itself. We've now established that criminal convictions don't disqualify political candidates. Presidential pardons can nullify consequences for political violence, and traditional checks and balances can be overwhelmed by popular support. International observers are already comparing this moment to the early stages of democratic backsliding in other countries. The question isn't whether America is in crisis, it's whether American institutions can survive it. And that brings us to you. Yes, you listening to this right now. This isn't just a news story. This is your country, your democracy, your future. Whether you support Trump or oppose him, whether these pardons were justice or injustice, one thing is undeniable. We are living through a moment that will define America for generations to come. So I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, do you think Trump's conviction should have disqualified him from the presidency? Were the January 6th pardons justified, or do they set a dangerous precedent? What do you think this means for American democracy moving forward? But here's the thing. I don't just want your opinion. I want your reasoning. I want thoughtful discussion, not just partisan talking points. Because the only way we navigate through this crisis is by actually listening to each other. If this video made you think, if it challenged your assumptions, or if it simply informed you about something you didn't know, smash that like button. Share it with someone who needs to see this, whether they agree with you or not. And subscribe, because this story is far from over. We're living through history, and I'll be here to help you understand every twist and turn. The question isn't whether you're a Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative. The question is, what kind of America do you want to live in? And more importantly, what are you willing to do to make that America a reality? The story continues, and your voice matters. Use it.